Okay, in today's episode, we're going to be talking all about volunteer teams. We know we can't do this alone. We need a team, and most of us, well, we can't afford to hire a security team to man all of our services and man all of our events. That's where volunteers come into play. If you have a medical emergency, you're going to hope you have someone who can dial 911 for you. If you're managing a violent attack, you are going to hope somebody has got your six. If you've got a missing child, these are all things that have some relative possibility. Missing children doesn't mean that somebody's abducted them, but maybe you've got a child that's kind of wandered out of your kid's church room. You're going to hope you have a team. And well, a team is going to be much more efficient at finding a child than just one or even just two people. Here's the point. Teams are absolutely necessary when it comes to security, even church security. Last week, we released a podcast episode featuring Josh Denhart, who I call basically like the volunteer team guru. I ran into him a few years ago, probably like 7 years ago now, and I bought his lead volunteers course. And in 20 years of ministry, it's probably the best purchase I've made when it comes to resources. In that podcast, Josh laid out 3 basic steps for having a healthy volunteer team. I know a lot of times we think we need to recruit first, but the truth is, if we were all really good at just keeping the volunteers that we have, we probably wouldn't need to recruit nearly as much as we think we do. So in today's video, I want to give you 3 simple steps, 3 simple things that you can do to help start retaining your team even this weekend. See, most people would have much larger teams if we would just get good at that retention, if we would have a good retention plan. But before we jump into the video, take a second and like this video, subscribe to the channel, help me communicate to the algorithm that this information needs to be heard, that this information needs to be seen by ministry leaders just like you. Now, the first thing we need to do if we're going to retain our volunteer teams, or if we're going to retain our volunteers, is we need to provide a clear job description for them. See, volunteers are kind of like muscles, in that if you don't use them, you lose them. But part of the problem some of us run into is we want to use them and we have plenty of things that we can give them to do, but we oftentimes just fail to communicate what those things are to our team members. Now, what I suggest you do, and what I do as well, is determine what job descriptions you have. Write those things down. Don't just like think about it or even just write it out on a note. Type it up. Then print that thing out and make it visible. See, I put our job descriptions right beside our radios, our two-way radios that in our security office. If you don't have a security office, maybe you've got just your own personal office. You can put that thing on your door. Just put it someplace where you know your security team is going to see them. Then on Friday or Saturday, even Thursday, maybe you do it on a Wednesday, I don't care, but on a day before Sunday, send out some job descriptions to your team and say, hey, this week, you're going to be the team leader. This week, you are going to be the kids' church security personnel. This week, you're going to be a rover. You're going to be the guy that walks around the perimeter of our church and walks through our different spaces to make sure everybody is where they are and make sure people aren't where they're not supposed to be. See, when somebody has a job, they've got a description, they feel needed. And when somebody feels needed, that means they're necessary. And when somebody is necessary, they show up with consistency. The second thing we need to do if we want to retain our teams, retain our people, is we need to give them a way to connect. When you're building your team, there are essentially 2 things that are absolutely necessary for longevity in teams. The first thing is inspiration, and most of us should get that inspiration from the Holy Spirit. Most of us should be showing up to our teams, because we felt inspired to be a part of that team. See, I know a lot of times we think of like a security department, but I've really been thinking about security as more of a ministry in the same way we've got kids ministry or youth ministry. We've got security ministry that people are called to. And so some of us or most of us should be called to security ministry, and our inspiration should be the Holy Spirit. But the second thing that we need to have if we want to build longevity in our teams is we need to have connectivity. Now, if the only time you connect with your team is on Sunday, I'll tell you what, you're missing the mark. You can't lean on social media either, because not everybody wants to engage on social media, and sometimes it's a revolving door. Instead of social media, I recommend creating a group chat on an app called Signal. It's a free app that allows you to create multiple groups. So you could have one for, like, maybe you've got a security team that's specific for Sundays, or maybe you've got one that's for Wednesdays. And you can even use, if you're like me and you manage a lot of different teams, you can have a security team chat, or you can have a kids team chat. You can have all kinds of chats. And what's really great is, instead of using like your phone's messenger, use Signal, because it's so much easier to add people and take people away. It's just so much easier to manage. See, another big difference in Signal is Signal has encryption that's built into it, which means that if you send some level of like sensitive data over the Signal chat, that data is only able to be seen by the people who received it. You can't hack into it, or it's incredibly difficult to hack into it. In the podcast from last week, Josh also mentioned making a habit of calling your team members, not texting, an actual phone call where you actually talk to them. I know it's very difficult. I'm not much of a talker. If you can send me a text, get I'd much rather get a text than a call. Pick a day, like a Tuesday, or maybe a day that isn't very busy for you. For me, it's Thursday. And then pick one or two people on your team, depending on how big your team is, and make that your call day. And it doesn't have to be long. You actually don't want it to be long. You want it to be a short conversation. Just they pick up, they say, "Hey, do you need something?" Because that's normally what they're going to assume, is that you need something. But say, "No, I don't need anything. I just wanted to know, is there anything that you need? Is there any way that I can serve you? Is there any way that I can pray for you?" Doing this welds your team together and builds trust between you and the ones that you're leading. Now, the last item on this list for how to retain your volunteers is to make an honest effort to make people feel appreciated. Most of our people work 40 hours or more a week. They have spouses and they've got kids. They're taking kids to baseball games and soccer games, and they're dealing with all kinds of stress. And then they still choose to serve on our teams. Serving can be a sacrifice sometimes. And I don't think we should let that kind of sacrifice go unnoted. Making people feel appreciated can be as simple as buying a dozen donuts on Sunday for your team and putting them in your security room or your security office. Another thing you can do is, like, maybe once a month, depending on your budget, get like a $5 or $10 gift card to a coffee shop, and then just recognize one of your people. Say, "You know what? Fred did an excellent job this past Wednesday night. He did an excellent job. I just want to tell everybody, I want to tell him that in front of everyone and give him a praise in front of people." Whatever method you choose, don't talk yourself out of making a big deal out of your volunteers. Making a big deal out of your volunteers, making sure they feel appreciated, is going to be reciprocal. Friends, I hope you're finding value in these videos. I hope you're feeling more equipped. I hope you're feeling more prepared. I hope you're feeling ready to lead your security team at your church. After all, that's what this channel is all about. That's what we're here for. We're here to give you insights, strategies, and tools so you can lead your community to be a place that is inviting and secure. Thanks again for joining me today. If you haven't already, please give us a like and subscribe to the channel. If you're on YouTube, well, everybody should be on YouTube. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of this content. If you have any questions about church security or even regular security in general, please put them in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to answer your questions. Thanks so much again. I'll see you in the next video.